The following program is a public access production of Andrea Fusco, who assumes full responsibility for its content. The content of this program does not represent the views of Auburn Regional Media Access, which serves as a forum for community expression and offers TV training, production facilities, and channel time to all Auburn area residents and organizations.
Hello and welcome to First Person with Andrea Fusco, where we bring you interesting people, places, and things of local interest. Today we have with us Skaneateles author and journalist David Figura, who has spent over 40 years in the newspaper business and is the author of one book with another one about to come out called Nobody Likes a Whiny Man, Remaining Relevant and Rockin' the Retirement Years. Thanks so much for being with us today, David.
It's my pleasure, Andrea.
You describe this book as a continuation of a journey begun nearly 2 decades ago. Tell us about this journey and how this latest book came about.
Well, back in my 50s, I was going through, I guess, the classic midlife crisis. I was unhappy with where my career was going. I was having problems in my marriage. I was a workaholic with few, if any, friends. And I decided to look into things and do some research and start interviewing. And I ended up interviewing 50 guys between 40 and 60. And to find out that I was not alone in what I was thinking and going through. The book was called So What Are the Guys Doing? And I found out there was a lot of similarities in what I was hearing from the guys and what I was grappling with. And the book was, I guess, it changed my life.
Really?
I took on a lot of different things. The biggest message out of that book is that a lot of men don't take time for friends and social connections. It's all about their work and what's left over for family. And I guess if, in a sentence, good friends make for a good life, and guys need to accept that and act upon it. And I formed about 4 different men's groups from scratch, and it changed my life and those who joined my group. And I'm still active in all 4 of those groups: a poker group, a volleyball team, summer horseshoe throwing group, and most recently a men's book club that I started.
Oh, wow. Does that meet regularly? I'm in a book club.
Yes, yes.
Do they actually read the book? Because my book club doesn't.
Well, they read the book, but a lot of the guys prefer to do an audio version.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
But
Oh, that's great, though.
we've done a lot of interesting books that I normally wouldn't have read. And we've got, with 10 guys, you got a diverse group of diverse interests, and it's really good. Once a month we meet.
That's fabulous. Good for you. And you had mentioned, too, when we were talking before, that you'd seen a lot of women getting together and having a good time and celebrating, but guys didn't really seem to do the same thing.
Yeah, that was...
What's your take?
That's one of the reasons I came up with the title. There was all this stuff going on, particularly my wife, who I was at one point resentful, every Thursday night during the winter playing indoor soccer, then going out afterwards for drinks, weekend kayak getaways up to the Adirondacks or to New York City. The whole girlfriend getaway thing was just staggering to me. I felt resentful as a guy because I didn't have it. And oftentimes when I was forming these groups, I thought to myself, so what would the women do? As far as, communicating, and it was very helpful. And I came up with the title with, there was this whole, I think I told you about this whole girlfriend getaway movement that was going on. And there was a girlfriend getaway magazine and 2.5 million hits on girlfriend getaways. When I Googled it, there was I Love New York had a girlfriend getaway campaign. And all this was going on in my head, and I was thinking, when women are doing this, so what are the guys doing? And on the cover of the book, I had 2 empty fishing boats on a summer evening. And I think that sort of reflected what a lot of guys were doing, which was nothing.
Yeah, just something very low-key or not as obvious or not in a group.
And, you know, this book, I was told, inspired a lot of guys to get involved. And also from women who read it, who wanted to find out about what guys were going through. They themselves, if they didn't think that friends were important, they took stock of their situation and reached out to friends. And I heard from a lot of women who read the book that they really appreciated it.
Oh, so they read the book, and I understand it was also a popular gift.
Yes. Well, I still hear from guys who like say, boy, you know, are you the guy who wrote that book? And yeah. So anyways, so the journey was, you know, I'm entering my 60s, and should I retire? Should I not retire?
The question.
And coming up with all these health problems, and it was sort of I guess once again I started thinking, well, what are the other guys doing on this? So I started interviewing
finding
men
out
to find out about, you know, mutual concerns about aging, and what I found out once again changed my life, and I hope it'll change the life of readers too.
Excellent. Well, so happy to hear that. The men you interviewed for this book, Nobody Likes a Whiny Man,
right?
Were much like your first, are embarking on some different journeys they hadn't considered before retirement. To what did they attribute this, and which of their stories did you find like the most unique or interesting? Did anything stand out?
Well, when you interview 60 guys, you're bound to find a lot of different variations. And one of the things that really resonated with me after finding out all this, hearing about these guys' stories, is there is no one solution to dealing with retirement. People handle it in different ways. Some guys go on go on like an encore adulthood and do something else in their career, or they or consultants. Other guys pick up hobbies. Other guys get into volunteering. I have a chapter dedicated to guys who always wanted to get into music.
Yeah.
And they got into music.
I noticed that one.
It was sort of like, you know, I can't say one is any more different than others, but I mean, just to give a couple examples, I got a story about a well-known TV weatherman who said, I'll never step foot inside a studio again, and was burned out on TV weather journalism. And now he's making custom-made, expensive furniture because he's following his woodworking.
I know who that is.
Yeah. I got a guy who was like head of research and development at Welch Allen, and, you know, big high-powered job, and the dude is now driving school bus for the Skaneateles school district.
Well,
and he teamed up with another guy, and they formed this car club, and their goal is to raise $1 million to put together a mental health unit at Golisano.
How fabulous and how different.
Or a guy who's like just, you know, a longtime truck driver who was sitting around doing nothing after he retired, and his wife suggested, you should go volunteer for the Red Cross. And what is he doing? He's driving blood from the Red Cross headquarters in Liverpool up to Watertown, Johnson City.
Wow.
And he just says, every time I deliver blood, I feel like I'm saving a life. It is so satisfying.
Something so positive can come out of something
like that. Right,
that.
You know, there's all those sort of stories in there, you know. And I got a guy who's a retired surgeon who's into gardening of all sorts. That was him, and his mother did it when they were younger, and he joined the Central New York Garden Club. And he went up to the Burnett Park Zoo and noticed that, he said, it seemed like a wasteland. And he went to the guy who was running it and said, look, I'm into gardening, and if you'll pay me for my materials, I can get some fellow seniors from the Central New York Garden Club, and we'll take care of all your gardening at the Burnett Park Zoo.
Wow.
The guy is 87 years old now, and he's still doing it after 15 years. He's got 18 seniors who he calls his zoo crew.
Oh, wow.
And they do all the gardening at the zoo. I mean, which is, I don't know, I mean, that's just an example.
That's great, and that's inspiring. So trading in one set of tools for kind of another, one set of instruments. That's awesome. You mentioned a very telling quote from Confucius shared by your sister-in-law, and I was particularly struck by it. We have two lives, and the second one begins when we realize we only have one. How is this true of your awakening and those that you interviewed in the book? They realize that they...
Well, I mean, there's a lot of quotes and stories, but one of the things that really resonated with me was a quote from poet Byron, which I put in the book, which is, "The afternoon knows what the morning never suspected." And the thing is, it's sort of like you have just so much time on this earth, and it's your body, your mind, your life. You're responsible for your own happiness, no one else.
Exact kind of your choice.
And that's the one thing that these guys are all making choices which make them happy, healthy, and feeling relevant. And that sort of like, blew me away that, these stories were just, to me, so inspiring. Because I was sort of a little down going into retirement.
Yeah, you kind of sense that from reading it, and you and I have talked about it, because retirement is such an adjustment for so many.
Right. And
you had, 40 plus years in the newspaper business.
Right. And
how did you transition from there?
I was doing this book at the time, researching it and interviewing, and these guys all inspired me that there was nothing to be scared of, nothing to be concerned about. You just had to try out different things and see what fit. And that's what I've done, and I can't say enough for, I consider all those guys my friends. Imagine having 60 friends and saying, "Andrea, you know what you should do? You've always done well. You should do this or that."
Yeah, exactly. Things that you maybe never imagined you would do, or things that you planned to do or thought you could do.
I picked up guitar again. I'm playing guitar in a praise band. I'm on the ecology committee for the Skaneateles Lake Association because they needed a fisherman's perspective.
Oh, yes.
Because I was the former outdoors writer. And plus all those other men's groups, I'm continuing with, and there's been no stop, and I just feel that, like I said, I changed my life and I changed their lives by doing it.
Excellent.
And it's a great feeling.
So in writing the latest book, Nobody Likes a Whiny Man, what made you start writing that one? Well,
like I said, going into retirement, I had a lot of concerns. I kept on delaying retirement, and basically, our financial advisor, who's my nephew, kept telling me, "Uncle Dave, you have enough right now to retire in your savings. It's all, when you want to do it, And his phrase really struck a note with me too, because he described retirement as doing what you want to do, when you want to do it, and with whom.
Very apt.
And prior to retiring, I was that whiny man.
Was there a moment in your winding down newspaper career that you realized maybe it's time?
Yeah, you always hear that. You'll know when it's time.
Yeah.
That time will come.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, and I write about this in the book, it was a moment where, because of, layoffs and, staff changes at the paper, they were tapping into the veteran editors and reporters to do weekend shifts. And suddenly going into the summer, I was told I had to do 3 Sunday evening cop shifts.
Oh.
And also, I was being told that, and by the way, we got you staff to work Thanksgiving. And I was,
You're like, thanks.
seriously. And after about a week of thought, I went into my boss and I said, I think I'm going to, this is too much. I think I want to at least try working full time. And he said, well, why don't you just go the whole way? I mean, do you see what's going on here? And I said, well, okay, I'll think about it. And then I went out to lunch with a fellow staff photographer who had just retired because he had cancer. And he looked at me and goes, what are you scared of, Figgy? There's no greater feeling than waking up and not having to pursue the almighty dollar. You got a book in your back pocket. You could freelance. You can do all sorts of things.
Coming. Yeah.
So what are you scared of? And I thought, So I came home and I told Laura, I'm really thinking rather than going part-time, I may retire. And then of all things, that morning before I went into work, I went to the Skaneateles landfill or the transfer station with all the garbage. And I saw this guy who was a charter boat captain on the St. Lawrence River who I had written about, who lives in Skaneateles in the off season. And he wanted to know about this book I was working on. He heard I was working on a second book. And he said, what's one of the central themes of the book? And I said, well, the clock is ticking on your life. Do something about it. And he goes, Figura, it's not a clock. It's a freaking hourglass. And it's just been turned over about 2 years ago. And the sands of time of your life are running out right now. So what are you going to do about it?
A way to just put it right out there.
And I came home and I said, I actually used these words. I said, God just slapped me in the back of the head. Like, make your decision, Figura. And the next day I turned in my resignation and said I was going to retire.
Good for you for making that decision. What was your wife Laura's reaction when you
Well, she was like sick and tired of me complaining. Like I said, I was that whiny man, And,
that nobody likes.
Well, I mean, I think I may have told you how I got that title, didn't I?
You did, but I don't think you told our audience.
Well, I had 2 hip replacements, and the second one, after a year and a half, I started limping again. And I went back to my physical therapist, and he asked me, have you been doing those exercises and stretches I told you to do a year ago when you were here? And I said, I haven't done squat in like 9 months. And he goes, why? I said, I sprained my wrist. And he goes, that's no excuse. And he looks, and he sat down, well, how's work going? You got the best. And I said, I don't know. I'm thinking of retiring. There's all this stuff going on and blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and he goes, you got the best job in the world. You're an outdoors writer. You're writing about hunting and fishing, and everyone wants to be you. And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, but you know what? I'm just sitting here and I'm listening to you complain, and you're paying me to do that. Why don't you lose 10 pounds? Why don't you start doing your exercises? And if you don't like your job and you're ready to retire and you can, do it. Work part-time, do something else. But don't make me listen to you complain, because you know what? Nobody likes a whiny man. Stop it. And I was like, whoa. And I came home and I said to my wife, Laura, I just got the title of my book. It applies to all aspects of aging.
And it's perfect. And didn't she come up with the subtitle?
Yeah, there was when I was floating this by a number of people, I got a lot of laughs and, I'm going to buy this for my husband. I'm going to buy this for my brother or my father, or I'm going to buy this for my best friend. And there's a small minority of people who said, well, it seems like it's a negative title for a book. And so my wife, Laura, came up with remaining relevant and rocking the retirement years. So it's like got a positive spin on it.
Positive, alliterative.
Yeah, a little alliteration.
It's all awesome.
Right.
How would you say you've previously grown from writing this book and your other one? How did it help you address challenges in your own life? Was it kind of cathartic?
Yes, it was. I guess knowing that other guys who were of all walks of life had taken chances and just reached out and done things, it was inspiring to me, and the whole chapter on volunteerism. There was a number of
Yes.
like eye-opening volunteers. And I'm just like, wow, like, what am I doing? It's like, I'm so concerned with myself. I should be giving more. I should be, spending more time with relationships. And, and then of course there's the whole, when you're growing older, there's a decline, mental and physical.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to deal with your strengths. And, it's sort of like doing nothing about, getting out of shape, gaining weight, it's just a downward spiral. That's the way I looked at it. And I heard one guy tell me that, and I had several examples of guys who were, close friends had died, and they looked at their lives and said like, well, geez, what am I doing to stay in shape? What am I doing to work out?
Yeah.
And I got to say, whenever I'm working out all the time at the community center in Skaneateles, I'm playing pickleball. And those mornings where I don't want to get up, I think about some of those guys who, and, I tell you, this was also a really eye-opener. I interviewed at least 4 guys who had near-death experiences.
Yes, you talk about that.
And then, or really terrible, terrible physical problems. And they sprung back from them, They got it. They got their act together. And I figured, well, if they could work out, why the hell can't I?
Yeah, anybody can do it, right?
I mean, if I cut back on my alcohol, if they can cut back on their alcohol and what they're taking in and lose a couple pounds, so can I,
Yeah, so they were kind of a motivator.
Right.
Interesting, very. When you and I spoke before this interview, we talked about those women who were just generally celebrating. Do you feel now that you see more men out just doing their own thing?
I still think it's...
Or is that not really?
It was a big thing in my first book.
Yeah.
And I emphasize it again in my second.
Yeah.
And I still think that guys need to...
They're not quite there.
Take that little good friends make for a good life. And, and not only get friends, but share and give.
Yeah.
And I still see in my wife and her friends a lot more than I see in the guys. But the guys are catching up. But still, I look around and there are a lot of men who, it was like, it really shook me in my first book when I asked, and the second book too. It's like, apart from your wife, someone in your family, who's your best friend and when's the last time you did anything with them?
Good question.
I still get like eye-opening questions, like guys almost caught in the deer caught in the headlights.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's my old college buddy, but he's living in San Diego now, and we talk twice a year on the phone, or, it's like, and I guess if there was anything that sort of inspired me, again, when I did my first book, there was a book signing, and I was in a Barnes & Noble, and this woman was looking through the racks for a book, and the husband was like this, and I said, he goes like, what's this book about? And I told him it's about the importance of friends, and he goes, no, I don't need that. I'm retired. My wife is my best friend, and we do everything together. And I was like, whoa.
Nothing like coming out and say that.
What happens if she leaves you? What happens if she dies? Where the heck are you going to be?
You need to have like a plan B.
Right.
Yeah.
And, one of the guys I interviewed, he came up with this, and I really liked the phrase. He goes, well, in retirement, you have to have a life together. You both need to have lives apart from each other.
Yes.
And my wife has all the stuff she does. I have all the stuff I do. And let me tell you, I married her for better or worse, but not for lunch.
I like that. That's really well put.
Yeah, it's like he's busy doing all this stuff, and she's doing all this stuff.
But not for lunch.
But not for lunch.
And I was going to ask you how important are friendships in the lives of those you write about, but you kind of just answered that question.
Well,
it's developing,
and
right?
the thing is, too, the whole thing about retirement is very tough on a lot of couples. Because problems, and I write about this, problems that previously existed get exacerbated now when you're spending more time with each other.
I know, you're in like the same room or the same house. Or,
Work doesn't mask the problems or take
Yeah.
care of the problems. And, there's a real emphasis on, and one of the things that shocked me, and when I say this to a lot of my friends, they're like, really? The fastest growing demographic in this country right now for divorce is the 65 plus age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Divorce overall is kind of on the slight decline, but it's going up because women are living longer than men. And people retiring early. COVID forced a lot of early retirements.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And was staggering to me was that I read somewhere a stat that 70% of divorces are precipitated by the woman saying, "I want out of this."
Very interesting, because that's got to be a change.
Guys are like clueless. "Oh, you're my best and only friend," and blah, blah, blah.
Didn't see it coming.
Didn't see it coming, yeah.
Goodness.
And so, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I interviewed a couple marriage counselors. I interviewed the sex and relationship consultant for AARP, Pepper Schwartz.
Yes, and that is,
who wrote this book,
very well known.
Dating for Dummies After 50.
Good interview.
Yeah, and it just opened my eyes to how relationships evolve and need to change when retirement comes around.
Yeah, you can't just go on being how you were being because maybe you were both going to work and you.
Right. So I mean, things like that about in my book. I think men and women will really get something out of it. And speaking of what women will get out of it, I had a female editor read it, and she really liked it. And she said, "One suggestion: why don't you put something at the end, a checklist for women who are wanting to deal with a whiny man? What should they do?"
That's an interesting. What did you think about that?
That was a challenge. It took about a month and a half of interviews. Marriage consultants, a fitness coach, a finance specialist. I even interviewed a grief counselor from hospice.
Interesting.
Talking about what he's seen,
Yeah. Very, very interesting. But are you glad you did that?
Oh, yeah. Once again, because it kind of...
It added to it.
I can't tell you the number of times I've mentioned that to women and go, "I want to read that."
and they will. Now, this has not yet been published.
Right.
So it's something people can look forward to.
Right.
What life lessons have you taken away from your books and your newspaper career? And what's your take on living one's best life?
Well, this came about, there's like I said, there's a lot of quotes, a lot of phrases that people gave me. I have a chapter dedicated to, of all things, it's grand to be a first-time grandpa.
I did see that.
And I interviewed 10 veteran grandpas about do's and don'ts. But one of the things that he emphasized that stuck with me, and I think it's the central theme of this book, is that the present is precious. And you can always wait to retire. You can always wait to volunteer. But you know what? Because you never know what's going to happen.
No, you have no way.
And and what happened in the past, you can't do a damn thing about. The only thing you can do anything about is the ending.
You can move forward.
You can move forward.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, okay, I don't have enough friends. Well, you can do things to make friends. Okay, I'm overweight, my health is on a downslide. Well, you can do things to
fix that.
You can fix, there's things you can do. And it's sort of like, rather than sitting around whining about it, do something about it, like my physical therapist said.
Exactly. That gave you the title for your book and the whole process.
Right.
Fun fact, you were city editor when I was a reporter at The Citizen.
Back in the 80s.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
I just wanted to mention that and put things in context because I just feel like it was so much fun to reconnect.
And she was a great features editor, too.
Thank you. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, David, it's been so good to have you here on First Person with Andrea Fusco, and I wish you lots of luck on your book, and thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.